Hey, what's up guys, it's Oakley, and this is going to be the second part of my video covering the news coming out of the Quest battle that was released, the ambush at the Thundering Falls. I got to play it, talk to the CA developers in an event a while back. Check out part 1 of this video where we go over the battle type, the units, and the UI. In part 2, we're going to be going over the battle mechanics and my impressions of what we've seen so far. So let's get into this. The battle mechanics, and I will just say from the start, this is good stuff. So yeah, the battle mechanics. So there's a whole list of things I want to go through. Let's go through the first one. Match combat animations. This is something that if you've been following Total War for a while, that they didn't have at first. So at first, you would have the early Rome Total War, medieval Total War, where you had units slashing at the air, poking at other units, and then those units would fall. Then slowly, as graphics improved and computers improved, they made it so that, okay, maybe you have combat animations. And then slowly but surely they developed that more and more to the point where Rome 2 and Attila, you have units kind of sliding around until they get locked into position, and then they go through this flurry of combat animations. Now it looks awesome, and it seemed like that's technology working for you. It's progressing, it looks cooler, it looks better, that's progression. But it had a pretty severe impact on gameplay to the point where it would really break up the cohesion of units. As units try and shuffle around to get into combat, it breaks up the unit formation, it causes blobbing, it slows down combat, it does all sorts of weird things that isn't necessarily for the best of the game. So I'm actually pleased to announce that in this game, they're moving away from match combat. It's returning to what we saw in previous Total War games, where you had a lot more kind of general slashing at the air. Now, it's not going to be as bad as it was before. They found a middle ground, where you kind of slash towards units. You will have some combat animations take place, but not nearly as much as you saw in Rome 2 and Attila. So, it's a mix of the two, but mostly you're going to be seeing the step away from match combat animations, and that has a huge impact on gameplay. We already tested it. It has less blobbing. Combat seems more natural. It seems more hectic and frenzied. And it just helps a lot with unit cohesion and behavior. So that is the first point I wanted to address. That was super cool. I was super happy about that. Now, the next big point that we want to talk about, again, a great step in the right direction. This is going to be unit health. So again, let's put this in context. In previous Total Wars, you had units with 1 HP, and then they stacked on top of that, you might have armor block chance based off your shield. So the way it worked before is you didn't really have health for your units. Every unit had 1 HP or maybe 2 or 3 HP if it was like a general or something like that. And it would cause, again, weird things to happen. Because if you look at Attila, when archers fire volleys, it'll chip away at your armor, and then finally, a couple volleys down, you'll see units start to drop like flies, and it gets these weird mechanics where it doesn't really reflect what's going on. There's a lack of clarity. Now, what they've done is they've stepped away from that, and what they've again done is let's rethink this. What they've implemented is a system of unit health, and now that's to be contrasted with current unit health. The current unit health just says how many men are remaining. What they have now is actual unit health in terms of like literal points, like my unit has 2,000 health, it takes a hit from some archers, and now it's dropped by 150 health. So you can track the individual health. Even if you haven't lost any warriors in your regiment, you will still see reflected what the total health is, and I think that's awesome. Now, where this is coming from is because in this game, they have single entity units. So, for example, it wouldn't work with the old mechanics, where, for example, before it only shows how many men are remaining in your unit. But what happens now if you have a giant, which is 1 guy per unit? He'll seem, if you use the old mechanic, his bar will be green. And then all of a sudden, health gets to a certain point, he drops, and then it goes from green to dead. And there's no indication. So that is probably what spurred them to develop this health mechanic. And they decide to share the love, share the innovation, and spread it with all the units. And it looks really, really cool. It's awesome. I think it has more dynamics. It makes it more evident what's been going on. It clarifies things. So I think unit health is a great piece that they've added to this battlefield. And I think it'll be a great mechanic. You can track the unit health of your heroes and stuff like that. Now let's go on to the next part. So we've covered match combat, unit health. Let's go into the next big change. Unit abilities. So again, like I said, let's put this in context. In previous Total Wars, you didn't have many unit abilities. And then slowly but surely, they added more and more gimmicks. Unit abilities like Headhunt, Crack the Whip, Shield Wall, Flaming Shot. You had so much stuff that you had to click in the battlefield that it became overwhelming. And that was one of the complaints people had. What they've done is they've taken the active abilities and they've turned almost all of them into passive abilities. So special abilities here have been baked into the units, which I think is a godsend. It reduces the amount of micro that you have, and what it does, for example, is it means that your units will auto-apply those abilities. And so when you purchase a specific unit, let's give you an example. So the green skin trolls, these guys, you've seen them before, you've seen gameplay, you've seen them spew acid in their vomit, you know? If that were done in Attila Total War, what would happen is you would engage those guys in melee, you might forget about them, and you'd be like, oh shit, I forgot to use their special ability. You go on them, you click on them, they then start vomiting, doing that ability, and then it has a cooldown. They've done away with that micro. What will happen is you'll send those guys into combat, and then as part of their combat cycle, that unit will automatically use that vomiting ability. And so I think that's really cool. And it takes away the micro, and what it does is it adds baked-in flavor to these units. So, for example, if I am a greenskin player, then I can buy certain units on the campaign map, and I know, hey, I bought these trolls and they have built into them the ability to vomit on people, or perhaps that's something you unlock with experience or technology or breeding, or I don't know how it works, but you know, when you buy that unit, you're assured that you're going to have that special ability, but it's not reliant on you having the micro to do that. They're just going to do it, which I think really adds to the flavor of the units, because all these units have their own special abilities that will obviously take effect and will make them stand out on the battlefield. So I thought that was overall, again, a great step in the right direction. Like I said, it seemed from the dwarfs that they took away shield wall. They took away stuff like that. And the dwarves you imagine to be in a shield wall. But no, just by like I said, it's baked into the unit ability. So when you look at the dwarves, their spacing is very tight. They keep together. And so it seems like they're already in shield wall, which again is cool. I like that. It's baked into the units, the factions, stuff like that. So that was really cool. Now, they haven't gotten rid of all of your abilities. You still have active abilities, but by making just a few of those, they make them so much more important and crucial. So we already talked about some of them. The gyrocopters, where you manually have to click drop the bombs. That's an example of an active ability that you have to do. Now, more active abilities that you can do. It's generally tied to heroes and hero power. So, for example, Thorgrim Grudgebearer has this magical axe, his great axe, and you click his special ability, which is to use that axe. And what it does is then you give it a target, he'll charge over to that target, he'll start doing like crazy area effect attacks, high damage, penetrating through everything. And I think that's really cool, because then you can say, okay, you know, I don't care, all my units are doing their special abilities, here is my hero, I really want him to have an impact on the battlefield, let's go ahead and send him against that group of orc boys and let's tear them apart. And you can do that now, just in a more cogent and evident way. Another ability that is, again, cool and tied to unit health is you have the ability to use potions. Now, it seems to be tied to individual characters. I guess you unlock it from the campaign map, but one of our dwarf heroes had the ability to restore his health. Again, playing into that health mechanic, where you see his health dropping down to very low. He has an ability where you click on the health potion, and all of a sudden he regains, 500 HP. Something like that. And I thought that was really, really cool. Of course, you couldn't do that in a traditional historical game, because that doesn't make any sense. But they've really embraced the fantasy setting, and that is going to have tremendous effects on battlefield strategy, on actually unlocking those abilities. And I think that was really cool. So yeah, that's how these new combat mechanics work out. In terms of other things, I guess we can talk about more minor things that are still in the battle. So vision, sort of the fog of war on the battlefield, is still present. They are still sort of tweaking this. I was asking them, hey, it's not really obvious what you have vision of, and it's not super clear. I wish you guys could improve it. Maybe do it more like Arena, where it's visibly, how far your vision extends. They said they're still thinking about it, but that the visibility range from Arena is just too intrusive to try and implement in the traditional Total War battle, so they're going to work on that. So that's still a work in progress. Now let's talk about, unit speed, morale, and fatigue. So I can't comment too much about those because I didn't see too much about it in the battle. I didn't have a chance to ask about it. Unit speed for the dwarves seem to be relatively slow. They're on foot, they're walking around, they're small dudes. So unit speed was definitely varied. I mean, the gyrocopters were whizzing around very quickly. Dwarves were slow. You could see the enemy warriors from the greenskins had wolf riders, very, very quick. Spider units, goblins riding spiders, were very, very quick. The goblins themselves were pretty quick. So yeah, there was definitely a differentiation in unit speeds. Morale. I didn't see anything particularly new. They didn't say anything new about the morale system. I'm not quite sure how it'll work. Again, I'm sure it'll be kind of built into the units themselves. So, for example, dwarfs, which are built out of elite warriors, probably have some built-in resiliency to fear. While, giants probably have some built-in ability to induce fear because, maybe you're not scared of an orc warrior, but you're probably scared of a giant that's like 1,000 times, 100 times taller than you. So again, I think the morale penalties and debuffs and all that stuff will be kind of computed behind the scenes and built into the various units in terms of their ability to scare units or their ability to resist being scared, stuff like that. But I didn't get to see anything new when it came to morale. You still have, wavering units, you still have shattered units and stuff like that. When units rout, they just run away back out the way they came off the battlefield. In terms of unit fatigue, I didn't really keep an eye out for that. I didn't see, again, anything too outstanding about unit fatigue, so I'm guessing it's still there, but it just wasn't evident that they changed anything. I'm not sure how that mechanic will work. So yeah, that's the main thing. Also, I want to talk a little bit about some AI behavior, because, battle mechanics, AI behavior is relevant. This was a quest battle. It could have been scripted, I'm not sure. It was hard to judge how the AI was performing, but it seemed to be competent. I don't want to stand one way or another, but the AI wasn't doing anything stupid. It seemed to be competent. It was engaging up close with its footmen. What I did notice, actually, is that the enemy wolf riders and mounted units, which were very quick, did seem to prioritize your artillery or your ranged units, and they would try and dart after those guys as soon as there was an opening or just make a beeline for them. Now, you could try and intercept them, and you could catch them. I didn't see them dodge around my guys and continue on to the siege pieces, but I did see them try and get around your flanks. So the AI seemed relatively competent. Again, it was the greenskins fighting, so you don't expect too much out of them besides swarm rush tactics. Doesn't show too many opportunities for excellent showcasing of the AI's ability to think and react and fight. But that's my 2 cents from what we've seen so far. Lastly, I think that's the battle mechanics. Let's move on to my impressions. So I thought I was pretty blown away by this. I think CA is doing a great job. I've been encouraged by what I've seen from Total War Warhammer. I think the way let's go over this. My chief concerns for Total War Warhammer was, okay, how are they going to do unit balance? So, for example, the dwarves, we had preliminary discussion about this before, speculating about how are you going to balance these guys out. They're on foot. They have all this great technology, equipment. They're elite warriors. How are they going to deal with this? In this video, CA addressed those fears. The way they addressed them was very smart. They reduce unit size in a grading scale where cheap units are large numbers, elite units are smaller numbers. The cannonry that would have been very, very good is still very good, but they seem to reduce the range. I noticed that the cannons, quarrelers, thunderers, all the dwarf range units have very small range. Whereas the opponents, the greenskins, they were shooting all the time. They had goblin doom divers that were firing at us constantly from a far away. So it seems like they've got a good dynamic going on. So the greenskins had these cheap, ineffective, inaccurate artillery pieces, but with great range. And that is very crucial, because if the dwarves have excellent range, then there's no point. Then they just sit there and they shoot you from far away. But if other factions have the ability to shoot at the dwarves from far away, it gives incentive for the dwarves to start moving forward. You start to break, thaw out this dwarven nuke box that they would otherwise want to do. So I thought that was really cool. So CA addressed those fears. What was my next fear? My next fear was like, oh god, how are they going to handle the match combat animations, given that you have small dwarves, you have tall orcs, you have skeletons, you have wolves, you have all that stuff. What CA did, very smart, was go for the, they got rid of the match combat animations. And this was awesome. It addressed that problem that I had, and additionally it fixed a lot of problems that people have had with previous Total War games, recent Total War games, with blobbing, with loss of cohesion of units, with the combat mechanics. So I'm glad they've addressed that. The health system was something I didn't expect. It's something that, if you think about it, should have been more obvious to me. How are you going to handle single unit stuff? But I'm glad they implemented it to everyone. I think that was awesome. That was a great thing to see, and I think it'll really change up the way the game plays. So that was an awesome thing to see. Next stuff I've already covered. I was super impressed with the way that they handled the unit abilities, that they've gone back on that they've baked it into the units. I think that was a necessary step to reduce the amount of micro, to place importance on the actual active abilities that come with your heroes, to make an impact on the battlefield. Something that I didn't mention before was magic. As the dwarves, I didn't get to play too much with the magic. I did see the enemy forces use magic against me. They had this goblin shaman who was on a wolf, and he cast this big comet, and we were worried about magic having a huge impact on the battlefield, it decimating warriors. The thing about that is he spawns in this comet, but then it's almost like elephants running amok. You cast it, and then it kind of wanders around the battlefield, so you lose a little bit of control. And all these times where you think about things that could be overpowered, it seems like CA has actually put in the thought to balance it out. Now, I don't have enough gameplay to tell you, yes, this is balanced, but it seems like CA is tending in that direction. So overall, I have to say CA has addressed my fears. They've gone above and beyond to meet some expectations in terms of making this game different from previous Total Wars and implementing new features that I think are very awesome, like the health and stuff like that. I'm excited to see more from this game, to see a lot more about it. Now, we didn't get to talk about the campaign experience at all. We tried to probe them about that. They refused to answer any questions about campaign, so we'll have to wait to hear about that. Now, I did ask a little bit about multiplayer, and they've stated before that multiplayer is going to be bare bones. I asked them, bare bones is not going to be enough. Can we please have free-for-all? Can we please have scored resolution? Can we please see those things make a comeback? And CA, again, wasn't really ready to talk about this, but they seem to be listening to our comments, and they seem to be listening to the fact that we said, hey, we really like the things you've implemented on the battlefield, but can we please get more stuff on when it comes to multiplayer? Can we see free for all? Can we please see custom built maps? And CA, the developers, seem to be listening to us. Now, we have to wait to see if they're going to act on that feedback, but I think that if CA wants to have a great game, if they want to improve multiplayer, I think they have to bring us free for all. I think they have to bring back specific battlefield maps that we can play on. So yeah, that is my impression of the game so far. I'm super impressed by it, very excited from what we've seen so far. So yeah, that's going to be the two parts of these videos. I'm sure there'll be more information for me to pick up, but this is going to be my main overview coming out of that press event that I attended. So stay tuned for more. I will see you guys around. Peace out.